Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. The Trump Mar-a-Lago raid saga continues. Last night, the New York Times dropped fairly big bombshell, I would say, that Trump had more than 300 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. The National Archives found more than 150 sensitive documents when it got its first batch of material from the former president in January, helping to explain the Justice Department's urgent response. I'll read a little bit. The initial batch of documents retrieved by the National Archives from former President Trump in January included more than 150 marked as classified, a number that ignited intense concern at the Justice Department and helped trigger the criminal investigation that led FBI agents to swoop into Mar-a-Lago this month, seeking to recover more. Multiple people briefed on the matter said. In total, the government has recovered more than 300 documents with classified markings from Mr. Trump since he left office, the multiple people said. That first batch of documents returned in January, another set provided by Mr. Trump's aide to the Justice Department in June, and the materials seized by the FBI in the search this month. The previously unreported volume of sensitive material found in the former president's possession in January explains why the Justice Department moves so urgently to hunt down any further classified materials. And the extent to which such a large number of highly sensitive documents remained at Mar-a-Lago for months, even as the department sought the return of all material that should have been left in government custody. I want to get to this part because, to me, legally speaking, this is very relevant. Mr. Trump went through the boxes himself in late 2021, according to multiple people briefed on his efforts before turning them over. The highly sensitive nature of some of the materials in the boxes prompted archive officials to refer the matter to the Justice Department, which within months had convened a grand jury investigation. Aides to Mr. Trump turned over a few dozen additional sensitive documents during a visit to Mar-a-Lago by Justice Department officials in early June. At the conclusion of the search this month, officials left with 26 boxes, including 11 sets of material marked as classified, composing scores of additional documents. So this part, Trump went through it himself in late 2021. Then in 2022, you have aides to Mr. Trump turned over a few dozen additional sensitive documents in June. Well, if Trump went through these documents himself at the end of 2021 and the lawyers gave back documents in June, that would indicate Trump withheld certain documents if he went through them himself, the boxes. So in terms of the legal jeopardy here, you can't just blame it on your aides. You can't just say, oh, my aides brought the boxes from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. I didn't really know what was in there. They were just hanging around. I didn't pay much attention to it. If Trump went through it himself. Secondly, this goes to show you, my guess is the New York Times sources or people within the FBI and DOJ. And obviously the FBI and DOJ were very likely getting their information from informants in Trump world, possibly, my guess, lawyers for Trump. Because remember, for a lawyer, it's a federal crime to lie to the FBI or Department of Justice. So if a lawyer certified that we've given you back all the materials, which lawyers did certify that in June, and then the FBI or DOJ finds out, no, you didn't. Well, my guess, the lawyer did not want to lie to the FBI or DOJ, or if the lawyers certified to the DOJ, FBI that we've given you everything back, and then realized, oh, wait, no, Trump still has stuff, and I'm not going to jail for Donald Trump. I mean, we're not talking like Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell level lawyers, lawyers that actually care about going to prison and don't want to lie to the FBI or DOJ. My guess is the lawyer is the informant, or lawyers are the informants that tipped off the FBI or DOJ. And the New York Times sources here are the DOJ and FBI. The only way that the DOJ and FBI would know that Trump himself went through the boxes is if they were tipped off by somebody in Trump world. And who would really know if Trump went through the boxes himself? The lawyers would know. So those are my strong suspicions there. Putting aside the 300 classified documents, which, obviously the double standard among the right wing is just astounding. The hypocrisy is astounding. But Hillary's emails and classified documents in the server. I'm with you. She should have been indicted. She should be in prison for that. I certainly would if I had a private server and classified information on it. And I was sharing that classified information digitally. But all of this, Trump has over 300 classified documents. He gave back some of it. He personally went through the boxes, gave back some of it, but chose to withhold quite a lot of it. Nothing. The right wing, it's a liberal conspiracy. Also, at the same time that this New York Times story comes out, a Trump-friendly journalist, John Solomon, who used to work for The Hill, he's pretty much known as kind of a right-winger journalist who kind of just pushes the line for Trump world and other right-wingers. They released the letter that the National Archives had sent to Trump. This letter was sent to Trump on May 10th, 2022, so a couple months ago. And I want to show you an important part of this. I don't really know why they thought releasing this letter that the National Archives sent to Trump helped him, because I think it makes him look worse. But this is the letter the National Archives sent, and I just want to read this part. Those conditions are satisfied here, as the Department of Justice National Security Division explained to you on April 29th, 2022, there are important national security interests in the FBI and others in the intelligence community getting access to these materials. According to the National Archives Records Act, among the materials on the boxes are over 100 documents with classified markings comprising more than 700 pages. Some include the highest levels of classification, including special access programs, material. Access to the materials is not only necessary for purposes of our ongoing criminal investigation, but the executive branch must also conduct an assessment of the potential damage resulting from the apparent manner in which these materials were stored and transported, and take any necessary remedial steps. Accordingly, we are seeking immediate access to these materials so as to facilitate the necessary assessment that needs to be conducted within the executive branch. So why I think this is important, and of course, some of this is speculation on my part. When they're talking about some include the highest level of classification, including special access programs material, that's the highest level classification you could get. And remember, the Washington Post reported that some of these classified documents pertain to nuclear programs. When I read special access program materials, that could fall into that category in terms of nuclear programs that Trump just had lying around the kitchen at Mar-a-Lago or whatever it was. So again, don't know exactly, can't definitively say that's what the special access program classified material was. But I mean, the Washington Post obviously had some inside source that it pertained to nuclear programs. To me, why, I don't automatically just trust the government. I don't automatically trust what the FBI, CIA, or DOJ says. But again, they're not going to raid the former president's home. They're not sending in the FBI. They're not, DOJ is not approving it unless they have an inside source or sources not only saying, hey, we think. Remember how, with Obama, it was like a 50-50 if bin Laden was there at the compound in Pakistan. They had to have inside sources and informants who tipped them off specifically where things were and specifically what the nature of the documents were. This isn't the kind of thing that you're just guessing or like, hey, we'll roll the dice and see if what the informant is telling us is actually there. They had to have informants that actually provided them the who, what, where, when, maybe not the why, and possibly even showed them photos or video of where these materials were. I want to show you, remember that New York Times story talked about the fact that Trump himself went through these documents, and obviously his lawyer sent some of the materials back and Trump kept a lot of the materials. To me, not being a lawyer, that directly implicates Trump. You can't pin it on your aides if Trump himself went through the boxes. Here is a former FBI general counsel making that point.
The New York Times reporting I found most interesting because of one particular sentence, which is that several sources said that when the archives were trying to get the documents back, that it was the former president, Donald Trump, who personally reviewed the boxes in deciding what to return. And that means he also decided what not to return. And we know from the archives, not just from the New York Times, that in those 15 boxes were substantial number of classified documents at the highest level. That is TSSCI, which is compartmented programs, special access programs. They constituted, just within the 15 boxes, 700 pages of classified documents. So that is incredibly damning. If you're a prosecutor, you really look for evidence of what the former president did personally. And if the DOJ either knows about or is soon to interview those people who were sources for the New York Times, they're going to have a substantial criminal case.
I mean, I think that's very, very important because, in other stories I've covered, I always use Flint as an example. The former governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, it was all, I didn't know, a failure in communications, a failure at all levels of government. My people didn't inform me, yada, yada, yada. I mean, here you have, obviously they'd have to prove it, but they must have some information that Trump himself was going through the boxes, picking and choosing what to return and what to keep. There's obviously reason for him keeping certain documents. And it's not only that he's keeping certain documents, his lawyers are certifying to the FBI and DOJ that they have returned all of the documents requested. So Trump is not only choosing what to give back and what to keep. His lawyers representing him are lying that they have returned everything. So I actually think, listen, this is the United Corporations of America. It's few and far between the examples of wealthy white people that actually are prosecuted and convicted. When they are convicted, we see them kill themselves in prison or, released within a couple years. Farmer bro Martin Scarelli was released, I think, after 3 or 4 years for, killing people because he jacked up the prices of life-saving medicine. So, I'm not like banking on Trump being brought to justice here, but there's a lot of overwhelming evidence here. Real quick, I also want to show this because it didn't seem so subtle to me. As I reported yesterday, Trump has now filed a lawsuit basically trying to slow down the process. He's demanding that a special magistrate is appointed to go through all of the documents that the FBI seized to decide basically if there's certain ones in there that the FBI DOJ cannot use, claiming that they would fall under executive privilege. It's all a stalling tactic. Trump has zero executive privilege for classified material. But this is Trump. He's stonewalling. He's trying to delay the process. Frankly, the FBI probably already went through all the documents by now. It's been 2 weeks. So it seems to me that this is just a stalling tactic by Trump. And he's trying to delay, probably so that he can announce his run for president. And after he initially announces, this is not as fresh in the news, the Mar-a-Lago raid, he could say it's all a political witch hunt, blah, 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 and be out there as a candidate rallying his base against the deep state. But this part of his filing of his lawsuit stood out to me. On August 11, 2022, counsel for President Trump spoke with Mr. Bratt by telephone. The first item of discussion was a message from President Trump to Attorney General Merrick Garland. The message was as follows. President Trump wants the Attorney General to know that he has been hearing from people all over the country about the raid. If there was one word to describe their mood, it is, quote, angry. The heat is building up. The pressure is building up. Whatever I could do to take the heat down, to bring the pressure down, just let us know. Now, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but this is basically Trump through an intermediary sending a message to Merrick Garland. Hey, you going after me here. People are angry. The heat is building up. Obviously, this is written in the context of a right-wing lunatic attacking the FBI office in Cincinnati. This is written in the context of another lunatic being arrested in Pennsylvania. He was threatening to slaughter FBI agents online. We've seen in Arizona, there was people, angry people crowding around the FBI office. The threats online against FBI, IRS have increased rapidly since the Trump raid. So Trump, he has kind of incited violence in the past. I give you January 6th, where, obviously new information has come out over the last few months that he said, hey, do away with the metal detectors. I don't care if they're armed on January 6th. They're not going to hurt me. New York Times, Maggie Haberman, who frankly I think is kind of an access journalist and has been sucking up to Trump for many years for access, but she interpreted it the same way I interpreted it. Let's take a look.
It is notable that he referenced that conversation that an intermediary had with Garland. That is, as Caitlin said, a classic Donald Trump move where he starts trying to have a negotiation with a prosecutor. But there is also an implicit threat, it seems, in what he is saying, which is, well, people are angry and who knows what will happen. For all of the reasons that were said here, Anderson, his argument, not only is it coming very late, but he's making an argument about privilege that it's hard to see where it applies here. I think that everything they are doing right now is about basically a time buy, which is another classic Donald Trump strategy.
So to me, that message from Trump is, be careful going further, Merrick Garland. Be careful going further. My supporters are angry. The heat is sizzling. He didn't use the term war, didn't use the term civil war, but it sure seems to be implicated. I don't know what other reason they would be referencing how angry his supporters are, which is completely irrelevant to whether he committed crimes or not. So the bottom line is here, I'm happy about this. I know there's a lot of people who say, well, Jordan, there's a double standard and they didn't go after Hillary. I agree. They should have gone after Hillary. They also should have jailed some criminal bankers like Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase, the head of Bank of America, Wells Fargo, for crashing the global economy, destroying people's lives who were foreclosed on. They also should have gone after a whole lot more police officers, including the police officer who strangled Eric Garner, George Zimmerman, et cetera, et cetera. We can't turn back the clock here. Obviously, we live in the United Corporations. Hillary Clinton got off. Frankly, I won't get into Epstein, but, people know what I think about that. But at the end of the day, just because there's been failures in going after others doesn't mean they shouldn't go after Trump. And you want to know something? If he's innocent, let the chips fall where they fall. But I'll tell you, if I took one item of classified information, hell, if I took one item of declassified information for the White House, I'd be locked up and they throw away the key. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.